Now, I'm not an international affairs type of person. I don't claim to have particular expertise in that department, but this story is interesting to me. Not so much from the international affairs perspective, although there is a bit of that as well, but also it raises some interesting questions for me, and I wanted to go over it. So this is from Glenn Greenwald's Substack, and Glenn Greenwald is reporting on this story that I actually became aware of the other day from somebody else's site. I think it was Steve Turley's YouTube channel. He talked about this exchange that took place. So what you see here is the face of evil, Victoria Nuland, the Honorable Victoria Nuland. Sorry, I shouldn't prejudice my my comments in that way. So forget what I said. This is not the face of evil. This is a nice lady, a really nice lady. I just remember certain things that she said and did and so forth. But anyway, forget all of that. Forget that she's a psychopathic globalist. Here's something that makes this interesting. All right. So I'll just read a bit from Greenwald's article. He writes, self-anointed fact-checkers in the U.S. corporate press have spent 2 weeks mocking his disinformation and a false conspiracy theory that claimed that Ukraine has biological weapons labs, either alone or with U.S. support. They never presented any evidence for their ruling. How could they possibly know? And how could they prove the negative? But nonetheless, they invoke their characteristically authoritative, above-it-all tone of self-assurance and self-arrogated right to decree the truth, definitively labeling such claims false. That is really good. That is a really good piece of writing, Mr. Greenwald. Excellent. And it does summarize these fact checkers, what they're like, their attitude of superiority and contempt and condescension. And it also, what we see unfolding here is something that so often unfolds. The quote-unquote conspiracy theorists say one thing. The fact checkers say, no, this is all wrong. There's no evidence for this. And then 2 weeks later, well, the thing the conspiracy theorists were saying turns out to be true. Let's read on. Claims that Ukraine currently maintains dangerous biological weapons labs came from Russia as well as China. Okay. The Chinese Foreign Ministry this month claimed the U.S. has 336 labs in 30 countries under its control, including 26 in Ukraine alone. Okay. Skipping down a bit, such assertions deserve the same level of skepticism as U.S. denials. Namely, none of it should be believed to be true or false absent evidence, yet U.S. fact-checkers dutifully and reflexively sided with the U.S. government to declare such claims disinformation and mock them as QAnon conspiracy theories. Unfortunately for this propaganda racket masquerading as neutral and high-minded fact-checking, I love this. I love how he shreds them. That's great. The neocon official long in charge of U.S. policy, the neocon official long in charge of U.S. policy, that's Ms. Nuland, pictured above, in Ukraine, testified on Monday before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and strongly suggested that such claims are, at least in part, true. Yesterday afternoon, Victoria Nuland, Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland, appeared before Senate Foreign Relations Committee Senator Marco Rubio, hoping to debunk claims that there are chemical weapons sites in Ukraine. He smugly asked Nuland, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons? and then you have the rest of the story. Rubio undoubtedly expected a flat denial by Nuland, thus providing further quote-unquote proof that such speculation is dastardly fake news emanating from the Kremlin, the CCP, and QAnon. Instead, Nuland did something completely uncharacteristic for her, for neocons, and for senior U.S. policy officials. For some reason, she told a version of the truth. Her answer visibly stunned Rubio, who, as soon as he realized the damage she was doing to the U.S. messaging campaign by telling the truth, interrupted her and demanded that she instead affirm that if a biological attack were to occur, everyone should be 100% sure it was Russia who did it. Grateful for the life raft, Newland told Rubio he was right. But Rubio's cleanup act came too late. And here's the crux of the matter. And this gets to the question that I have, that I'm very intrigued by in this whole story. When asked whether Ukraine possesses chemical or biological weapons, Newland did not deny this at all. She instead, with palpable pen-twirling discomfort and in halting speech, a glaring contrast to her normally cocky style of speaking, and obfuscatory State Department officialese acknowledged, Ukraine has biological research facilities. All right, so he asked her if, thinking that, again, just to review, he asked her thinking that she would say, of course not. He asked her, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons? And her answer was, Ukraine has biological research facilities. So bioweapon facilities or biological research facilities? Huh. She rephrased it, but she answered the question essentially in the affirmative. She rephrased what was being what was under discussion. She made it sound more benign, but it's interesting she didn't just say no, absolutely not. So, any hope to depict such facilities as benign and banal was immediately destroyed by the warning she quickly added. We are now, in fact, quite concerned that Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of those labs. So we are working with the Ukrainians, that's right, on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach. Again, just to read a little bit more. Newland's bizarre assertion that Ukraine has biological research facilities that are dangerous enough to warrant concern that they could fall into Russian hands ironically constituted more decisive evidence of the existence of such programs in Ukraine than what was offered in 2002 and 2003 to corroborate U.S. allegations into Saddam's chemical and biological programs in Iraq. All right, so Rubio, just to review what happened. Rubio, there you see him, asked Newland, pictured above, if there were, you know what, why don't we just watch it here? Let's watch the exchange.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can
the Ukrainians
prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
Okay, so riddle me this. He asked her if they have biological weapons facilities. She answers that they have, Ukraine has biological research facilities, and that she's afraid that these facilities, that what might happen if these facilities fall into the hands of the Russians. Well, what does that suggest about what's in those facilities? All along, the idea of biolabs being in Ukraine, this was something that was being put out there, or something the Russians were claiming, or something the Chinese were claiming. It was something that conspiracy theorists were theorizing about, and they could have just put it to rest here by saying, no, absolutely not. These are pernicious lies. This is misinformation. This This is propaganda. This is the Putin bots at it again. I got called a Putin bot by somebody recently. But anyway, so why didn't she just say no? Why when asked this? Why when she was lobbed this softball question by Rubio? Why didn't she just say? Why did she not just say no? No such facilities exist. You know, why? And I don't know the answer to this question. But the way that she answered the question was, do you have biological or are you working on biological or chemical weapons? Is Ukraine working on things that could be of a biological or chemical nature that could be considered weaponry? And her answer was not no. Her answer was there are biological research facilities, which just seems like a way of rephrasing, you know, a biolab for the creation of biological and chemical weapons. So there was a little bit of slipperiness there in the way she changed the definition, but she basically said yes. And I think Rubio was absolutely flabbergasted that she said yes. Now, why did she say yes? Why did she, lying comes pretty easy to these people. Why didn't she just lie and say no? I'm trying to figure that out. She was very, and notice, since we showed the clip there, notice how uncomfortable she was. Notice her body language. I know there were a couple of YouTube channels that did a lot on body language, and some of it was interesting. Some of it was a little, I don't know, maybe overly indulgent. But she looks like she's very uncomfortable, but like somebody or something is forcing her to tell the truth. And then Rubio, in a kind of panic, gets her to say, well, yeah, but if there's an attack, of course, it's the Russians who did it. And then she says, yes, of course. And that's classic Russian. That's the classic Russian method of doing things. So it's interesting how you can just talk about an entire nationality. Oh, well, that's just what the Russians do. That's the Russian. Substitute any kind of protected ethnic group in there, and say, oh, well, that's just what Hispanics do. That's what blacks do. That's what whatever. And of course, that Victoria Nuland would be canceled forever. But it's okay to say it about this particular group of people, this particular ethnicity. Anyway, that's a separate issue, still an interesting one. But my main issue is, why did she admit this? What do y'all think? Any ideas? Let me know.